Women internalized unworthiness and sexual shame and got broken in their energetic power so that their spiritual, social, and political power could be broken and taken from them and then justified.
I love the quote where you say, you don't have to burn witches anymore, you just teach them to hate themselves.
Yes. And if they believe you that they are unworthy, if their sexuality is dirty, sinful, wrong, shameful, right? And some of you might be like, I didn't take on sexual shame. I want you to imagine that on YouTube, a video gets posted of you in orgasm. Do you feel shame or do you feel celebration? So part of VITA coaching, and this is just one small part of it, is inviting people to go back to that consciousness and to make right what was wronged, to integrate and heal. Welcome, Emily Fletcher.
Layla Martin, I love you so much. I feel so excited to get to turn the tables a little bit and interview you on the origins of VITA coaching, what inspired you to create it, what you're most proud of inside of this training, and also like what you've seen happen in the world as a result of VITA coaching. And I also feel really excited to share my personal experience. Like even though we're best friends and even though I've had the extraordinary honor of receiving direct transmissions from you, being inside of the coaching program has blown me away. Like it's truly one of the most well-crafted, deep, exquisite healing experiences I have ever gone through. Like I cannot believe that all of this healing, all of this history, all of this power is inside of one course. And so I think I'll just start there of my experience, and then I want to dive into the history of it. So when I enrolled, if I'm being honest, I was like a little not arrogant, but just like, I don't know, like, am I going to get anything out of this? Like, I've already learned directly from the master, and what am I going to learn? And then I started, and you're so brilliant the way that you start VITA, because it's really about self-love, sourcing safety inside of your body, because the reality is there's so much sexual shame, sexual conditioning, and sexual trauma on the planet that if you don't have that safety and love, then things can be re-traumatizing, or people won't let themselves go as far. And so that was really big for me, of just establishing that safety and self-love. But there were some things that surprised me. And one of them was there's an erotic innocence module, and it's like you go into being a baby. And I was like, oh, this will be a sweet thing to do as I'm falling asleep. Thankfully, there was no one else at my house. I'm just sort of going through this guided visualization where you bring you back into like, remember like those first, not even remember, but like tune into the frequency, that pre-verbal, pre-memory space of being a baby. And the reality is babies are flirting all the time, right? Like babies have to use their sexual energy in a very innocent way to stay alive, right? Because otherwise babies are annoying, right? They're a lot of work. They have to kind of flirt with us. So I was like, oh, tuning into sweet little baby Emily. And next thing I know, I sit up in bed. I start screaming bloody murder. And it was like, what is going on? Like, what is this pain stored in my body? And I hadn't remembered. But I was actually in an incubator for the first 3 weeks of my life. I was born premature and I had jaundice and a heart murmur. And I don't think I had realized until that moment the traumatic imprint that was left on my nervous system. And the reality is that anything at a baby level is like creating the foundational tectonic blueprint for our reality and our consciousness. And so because of that module, because I realized like, whoa, I have trauma here that I get to look at, I get to heal, I get to love, I get to integrate. And then working through that in that module, I think helped create even more safety and trust in my body. And without that, there is no sacred sex, love, and relationship, right? And so I just like that was a really surprising and powerful healing that happened for me. And then more recently, I've been going through a very intense and rather public death portal where like the entirety of my existence and everything I loved about my life has systematically fallen apart. And I've been faced with the opportunity really of facing my shadow in a new way. And I had always heard about shadow work, but I'd never really done it. I was like, I get it intellectually, but what I've realized in both going through it and then doing this module inside of VITA coaching, which is brilliant, that I was like, oh, we put our shadow behind us where we can't see it for a reason. Because it's like the pieces that we find unlovable about ourselves. And when I was just in the depths of it, like really in a bit of self-judgment, looking at pieces of myself that I felt were unlovable, doing one of the modules inside of VITA Coaching gave me the tools and the framework to see parts that I also hadn't seen yet, to see new parts of my shadow and where they came from, and to understand them as a survival mechanism that allowed me to love them more, to allow me to love the parts of myself that I previously found unlovable. And again, like the more you do that, you're just going to have better relationships. You're going to have more self-love, which gives you the capacity to have more love inside of relationships. And then just meeting you and being friends with you has like outrageously up-leveled my eros, my relationship with darkness, actually, and with play. And what I feel inside of VITA, which is sort of an outpicturing of something that you hold in your transmission, is this staggering, really unprecedented ability to go into the depths of the darkness, which creates space for outrageous light, for outrageous play, for outrageous joy. It's like that, I think it's Coelho, the quote was like, the pain carves out space for more joy. And I think just in both in being friends with you and in going through VITA coaching, I have found ways to not avoid my pain. I have found tools to go in and alchemize the depths of my pain, which really has made space for so much more joy, so much more love. So I'm curious, because you made VITA quite a while ago. Like this cognition came through like way before sex witches were cool, way before everyone even knew of the concept of priestess.
Yeah.
So like what inspired you to even create VITA?
So I made this program 10 years ago. And it did come from my experiences living in Asia and working with tantric teachers and masters, and really understanding that there were huge places in our sexuality and our relationship to body that were profoundly distorted. But I think one of my biggest realizations, having studied Tantra, was that so much of this distortion actually had a spiritual root. So because
Wait, what does that mean? The distortion had a spiritual root?
Yeah. So if you were raised in especially a Christian tradition, but some of the Judeo-Christian traditions, depending on the lineage, you'll be taught that sex and the body and relationships are the opposite of divine experiences, right? In some ways, some of the Jewish traditions actually have a healthier relationship to this, of like a healthy, good life is actually part of a spiritual life. But there is a lot of teaching in the West that sex, relationships, your own body is a distraction from spiritual truth. And even if you weren't raised religious, all of us raised in the West were swimming in this assumed reality as the dominant culture, that your pussy and your cock are not divine. The divine lives in a church or a temple, that your asshole is not sacred, that the way that you have an orgasm with your beloved has nothing to do with your spirituality. And for many of us, but certainly not all of us, there's layers upon layers of shame and disconnection from our bodies and from our orgasms and from the way that we interact. And when I followed that all the way down psychologically, it came from a deeply embedded spiritual belief that almost every Westerner I've come across carries on some level, that to be in your body, to have an orgasm, to be in the throes of eros is the opposite of God, and the opposite of God is evil. So in so many experiences, whether we know it or not, this deep spiritual imprinting is creating a dissociation from our intimacy capacity, from how much we can sit in our hearts, from how much we'll inhabit our pleasure and our eros. Because if on some level, when I was super young, I got the message from my culture that those experiences are bad or evil, or at the very best, just not that sacred or divine, I will check out, because if I'm a good person, I don't want to be messing around with evil. I don't want to be messing around with that kind of darkness. And so I will dissociate slightly. And so many of our sexual problems and our intimacy problems come from a root level dissociation that happened from some of the most beautiful human experiences. So part of VITA coaching is reestablishing spiritual goodness, that it is part of a healthy and integrated spiritual path to have beautiful orgasmic experiences, to have sacred and intimate relationships. And I'm a proponent of long-term relationships, like really being in partnership and going the distance. I'm also, a big supporter of divorcing or leaving your relationship if it no longer serves you. But a lot of the times, tantric practices are associated in the mainstream with a kind of promiscuity and not being in partnership. And actually, this path to me really supports the depth of partnership and what that reveals inside of you and what that shows you and who you turn into in deeply choosing a life with a person and really sticking to that. So much of how we make love and how we relate to our bodies, number one, had this spiritual dissociation in it. So when you study tantric philosophy and everything is goddess, and these experiences are just as holy as the stillness of prayer or whatever, a statue on an altar, it fundamentally changes how you experience sex. Because if your worldview is that sex isn't divine, how can you know the sweetness and goodness and fullness of sex? But when you understand that there are spiritual realities, spiritual truths that you can directly experience, where the moment of orgasm is just as holy as the still moment of prayer or incense burning in a temple, you will come home to that experience much more deeply. So that was one of the founding principles of VITA. On top of a deep understanding as a sexual abuse survivor that so many of us did not understand how to intelligently heal and integrate our own trauma. And so having a very detailed understanding of how do you release pain and tension from your cervix and restore a cervical orgasm? How can you remove negative medical conditioning that your womb is just this disaster waiting to happen and understand it as a living crucible of wisdom.
And a matrix point for the unmanifest to birth into the manifest as this portal to the divine.
Yes. And how do we overturn so many hundreds, if not thousands of years of programming that to be spiritual is to disconnect from life and to be serious, where being spiritual can be a celebration of life, a high-level devotion to the human experience. And the other thing that I really saw where VITA became the answer is that women got fractured in their power. So when spirituality changed on this planet from, I'm a spiritual teacher and my function is to support you to remember your own spiritual connection. All right, we're going to pause for just a moment and I'm going to invite you to join my email list. You might be like, email, but honestly, email is where I share my deepest teachings, my most personal stories, and my most outrageously good content. It's also where you can stay connected to all of the podcasts that I release and my programs where you can train more deeply with me. So if you want to join, head over to laylamartin.com and sign up with your best email address. When spirituality changed from that to, I'm a spiritual teacher and you have to listen to what I say and do what I tell you, and God talks to me and not you, and you better give me money to tell you what God says, right? Then I can't have you being in your power. Like, that's messy, and you're going to question me, and you are not going to give me money and allow me to thrive and take social control. So if I want you to listen to me, I need to figure out a very subtle way to disempower you. And what happened with women, it also happened to men and people of all genders, but I was really studying women at the time when I made VITA Coaching, is that we got fractured. So you can either be a sexual being, you can be a whore, a mistress, you can be owned by some man as a sexual object, and that's it. And you don't get to be in your heart. You don't get to be a wife, a chosen woman. You don't get to be respected. You don't get to be a mother. You just get to be a sexual being. That's it, right? Or you get to be in your heart. So you get to be a mother, a wife, a good woman, right? You get to be chosen by a man, but he's also probably fucking a mistress, right? Because like, you're not a sexual being, right? Wives don't get to be sluts. And so what that did was it disconnected women. If you wanted to belong to society as a wife or a mother, you got disconnected from your sexual erotic power. And if you chose your erotic power, you were slightly condemned by society, or you could be chosen but only behind closed doors. So a lot of women disconnected from their eros, or if they chose to embrace their erotic power, they lived in shame and the outskirts of society. And then should you live in your third eye and embrace your spiritual and mystical power, you'd be tortured or killed. So what this did was it caused women to shut down their spiritual and mystical power, their own connection to God, and to either choose to be a sexual being disconnected from their hearts, unchosen or disrespected by society, or to be in their heart, but disconnect themselves as sexual beings. Now, this fracturing means that you cannot run energy up and down your spine. When you run energy up and down your spine, this is the stairway to heaven. This is the gnosis of yourself as divine. And when you know yourself as divine, you start seeing everyone else as divine as well.
Amen.
Now, if you're going to have really good sex, your cervix will open and pulsate life force energy straight up your spine, through your heart, and through your third eye. And you will know your own mystical power and truth. Now, if we can't have that, because those women are going to be severely problematic.
Yeah, not so good for controlling societies, these women who remember themselves as divine.
Because they will take their rightful place as high priestesses, as queens, as orgasmic mothers, as midwives who teach us about the beauty and power and portals of birth, as death doulas who make death a sacred process, right? And you can't have that if you want women to be controllable and quiet, and you also want to justify taking away their spiritual, social, economic, and political power, right? You have to treat them like fucking idiots who don't deserve that. And one of the ways to make them feel that is to break their own internal power. And if you do that and sever it hard enough, they might just start to believe you. And if they believe you that they are unworthy, if their sexuality is dirty, sinful, wrong, shameful, right? And some of you might be like, I didn't take on sexual shame. I want you to imagine that on YouTube, a video gets posted of you in orgasm. Do you feel shame or do you feel celebration? And until you feel celebration, right? I'm not talking unconsensually, like, because then you would feel violation, but I'm talking, could I have the world look at me consensually in orgasm and be like, yes, that's to be celebrated. That's an act of beauty. That's one of the most powerful things that someone could ever see me doing. Just like if someone took a video of you praying or meditating, right? You'd probably be like, yeah, that's me. I meditate. I took Emily Fletcher's course and I meditate, right? So VITA was this understanding that women internalized unworthiness and sexual shame and got broken in their energetic power so that their spiritual, social, and political power could be broken and taken from them and then justified.
I love the quote where you say, you don't have to burn witches anymore. You just teach them to hate themselves.
Yes. And if you teach them to hate themselves for long enough, they'll teach their daughters to hate themselves. My brokenness becomes my daughter's brokenness. And if my brokenness was what I had to do to survive in a misogynistic and violent culture, I will teach my daughter to do it so that she feels safe too by breaking herself when an unbroken woman wasn't safe. And so what I did was I looked around and I was like, wait, in a lot of places in the West, okay, we've got a long way to go until we're safe the way I'd like to see us be safe, but we're so much safer than we were 500 years ago. This isn't true everywhere in the world, but it is true in a lot of places in the West. And so I looked at that and I was like, what would it take to rebuild our power from the inside out, to do all of the healing and the activation and the reunion of sex, heart, and spirit so that we know ourselves as erotic, celebrated, divine beings, so we can have full body ecstatic orgasms, so we can be wives and mothers and keep that erotic pulsating power, or if we choose to be single and child free, that we can live lives of pulsating love and intimacy and ecstasy, and all of that can pulsate upwards, and we restore a sense of spiritual safety so that women trust their leadership. They trust their connection to the divine. And so I asked myself, what are all of the practices and what is the process I would take someone through so that they could know that power and restoration in themselves? And then what would I teach them so if they have this gift and this empowerment, they could lead others through the same process. And that person doesn't have to drink the tantric Kool-Aid if they don't want to, but if they want a better marriage, if they want to be able to be orgasmic, if they want to drop the shame and love their body again, these tools work on clients, whether or not they believe in the underlying philosophy. And so how do I then empower these women to make money and to claim this as a profession and to weave this into how they hold space so that others can find their way back to sovereign power and connection as well?
So beautiful and so profound. And I just want to say thank you. And I've seen firsthand like the impact of like the depth of care, the depth of thought, the history and the study and the science that has gone into this work and how it has really fundamentally changed who I am. Well, I'd say it's helped me remember who I am. It has not changed me, but it has helped me remember my own divinity. It has helped me reclaim many, many lifetimes of doing this work. It has changed my relationships, my sense of self-worth. It has changed my pleasure. Also like part of my dharma, I'm like adding this into the work that I'm doing in the world. And I know that I'm not alone. Like so many of my students have come to you and added this into their repertoire or become sex, love, and relationship coaches. And we're going to go into like VITA and actually the brilliance of how you learn first how to work on yourself and then how to coach and then the business mastery. But I first just want to talk about like you and your transmission and the depth of work that you have done on yourself using the same tools that happen inside of VITA. And you mentioned that you're a survivor of sexual abuse. Thank you so much for the bravery with which you share your story, because I think you've empowered thousands and thousands of women to share their own stories from a place of reclamation and empowerment because of the bravery with which you share yours. But I think it's challenging for any of us to call in a relationship that feels like a full match. I am met, I am loved, I feel honored and proud of this person. I feel proud of who I am inside of this. But I think it's especially challenging when you come from an abusive past, and especially if that abuse comes from your father, right? Like here's the archetype, here's the imprint of like what a man should be, what a relationship is, and you had a history of extraordinary abuse from your father. And I have seen you systematically apply these tools, do more self-love, more self-care, more therapy, more tantra, like more reclamation, more pleasure than almost anyone else that I know. And I see you walking the walk, like walking the talk rather, and really embodying the teachings that you've put inside of VITA. And I want to celebrate that. We've been best friends for like 5 years now. And I've seen the way that you've prioritized your own love, your own relationship. And now like where you are in your beautiful relationship with Babak, like it's not just like an Instagram mirage. It's not just like, oh, look at that beautiful couple selling a tantric mastermind. Like it really has depth and honesty And you guys have both done so much work on yourselves and on the relationship and your sexuality and your self-love. And that is a direct result of these tools that are inside of VITA. And I'm just so proud of you. And I'm so happy for you that you've cultivated this. And I just, for anyone listening that's like, oh, like she's just preaching this or she's just teaching this or could it really work for me? Like, I don't know anyone that's had like as much like pain and trauma as you've had. And I also don't know many people in as happy and as amazing of a match or relationship that you are in. And that is like, it's like, I want to give you like an Olympic gold medal. Right? I want to give you like the sex, love, and relationship gold medal of all time. And so it's just, you are living proof that these tools work. And I also believe that the transmission matters, right? Like, I'm not going to go get financial advice from someone who is broke. And I don't want to take a sex, love, and relationship teaching from someone who hates men or someone that's not in a healthy relationship or someone who is not erotically alive. And you really do embody like these codes of outrageous erotic sex, of deep self-love, and a beautiful, thriving, yes, sometimes challenging, but ultimately real and loving relationship. And so, bravo.
Let's take a little pause from the podcast, and I'm going to tell you about my signature 1-year program. This is the VITA Sex, Love, and Relationship Coaching Certification, and it is for you if you have dreamed of giving your gifts as a sex, love, and or relationship coach with a holistic and spiritual lens. This program starts as a personal deep dive, allowing you to transform your own experience of sex, love, and relating. It then trains you in a profound methodology that allows you to become a confident and masterful coach, and it trains you in business skills so that you can effectively sell your coaching packages to high-end clients in a way that feels heart-centered and filled with soul. If you want to have a lifestyle that you are super excited about, create your own work hours, and have a meaningful impact in the world, go to laylamartin.com/VITA coaching. That's VITA, laylamartin.com/VITA coaching. Well, thank you for saying that. And it has been an aspect of something I'm so proud of in me and Babak's relationship, which is I was terrified of love from the masculine before, and I really associated with love with pain and with abuse deep in my nervous system. And so it was very hard for me to not only attract healthier relationship, but sustain a thriving, powerful, wondrous relationship. And I had a really good long-term relationship, but it was just at the level that my system could handle, because right underneath the surface, anything bigger than that would have felt terrifying. Anything with more love or more devotion or more power would have scared the shit out of my nervous system. So it's like I was doing the best that my nervous system was capable of with all of the healing work I'd already done.
Yeah.
And when I left that partnership and made the prayer of I want the highest love and the deepest sex and the most devotional partnership, like that is my prayer. Take me there. And I did even more work on those layers of pain in my heart and those layers of terror so I could replace terror with safety, replace terror with safety, replace terror with safety. And that changed who I was able to magnetize. Now, one dream of that, and I think this can be the feminine dream, and it can happen for some people, is I do that work and then I magnetize like the man who's so ready, right? Like he had an amazing childhood. He has the best relationship with his mother. He's got a trust fund, like whatever the fuck. He's got a trust fund, but he's also a hard worker.
He's hot.
Making that money. Yeah, totally. And he treats me like a queen. Okay, so that does happen sometimes. And those men are out there. But the vast majority of the world, men have trauma just like us, right? And so in my partnership, right, my man had done a lot of his solo work, and still his relational trauma came up. He was born in a war zone. His family was targeted. And like, I will just say that I have felt and watched what lives in his nervous system as a little boy in the Middle East who grew up with bomb raids and bomb sirens and attacks happening all the time, and how much that still exists in the nervous system of a grown and powerful man. And like, we talk about war and to see and feel what that does to someone over a lifetime doesn't even, it's not about whether you live or die. It's for those who live, what the fuck that feels like inside of them. And to see how hard that has been for someone with such a good heart who cares so much to integrate and integrate and integrate and come back to power and love. And one of the things that I can say in standing for that healing in our partnership is, what good was all this training and all these tools, and what good is VITA coaching if it cannot be enough love and integration that it can help us heal from even the deepest, most painful things that happen to us in life? And I'm so proud that the work that I did allowed me to stand with and for a man and for a partnership that is so extraordinary and had deep pockets of pain to overcome. And I couldn't have done that without this work.
Yeah.
I couldn't have stood for our love. I could not have been in my power and loved greater than our trauma and our pain. And in doing that, we got stronger and stronger and healed in like unbelievable ways.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So thank God.
Yeah, it's truly like unprecedented. And yes, you both had a willingness, but you both also had like years and years, and in your case, decades of embodiment and practice in self-love, in resourcing safety, in holding space for someone else. And when I think about like, the amount of war zones happening on the planet right now, the amount of children whose nervous systems are getting imprinted with, war and unsafety and trauma right now, this might sound a little, I hope this does not sound glib, but there are oftentimes moments, we have such an outrageously privileged life, and we have some of the most wild, beautiful, erotic, magical life experiences things I didn't even know to pray for. And oftentimes when I find myself like in the midst of that and I'm looking around the room that feels like a temple space, that is a temple space, that feels like the embodiment of heaven on earth, when there is Eros in the room and it's a pathway to the divine, it's a portal to the divine. And I actually sometimes actively think about all of the war that is happening on the planet, all of the trauma that is happening on the planet when I'm in those spaces, because it's like, I want to hold the juxtaposition of both. I want to hold that frequency of the outrageous darkness and pain when I'm in that space of outrageous light and holiness, because I want to help people even energetically remember that this is possible. That like the medicine that nature has installed inside of us, this oxytocin and dopamine and serotonin and norepinephrine, these like organic bliss and pleasure chemicals that God, Goddess, nature, the divine has installed inside of us. It's not even like you have to ship MDMA to a certain part of the country or that you have to get psilocybin approved legally. It's like these are inside of us and they are as potent and powerful as psychedelics in some cases if used with safety. And I love the way that you have really help people to see and reclaim their own internal pharmacology as medicine. And like you said, as a pathway to the divine. Because if you feel that unconditional love and remember your own power and creativity, because that's to me what divine means, right? Like unconditional love and outrageous creativity and power. And those things can be resourced internally when you have access to this cocktail of chemistry that nature's installed inside of us. So I'm curious to hear, like, I'd like to know what you're most proud of inside of the coaching itself. And then also, like, imagine you're on your deathbed and you're playing your deathbed slideshow, and specifically like something that happened as a result of your work, like someone that came up to you on the street or a story that you heard from a VITA graduate. Like, what are you most proud of inside of the course itself? And what are you most proud of from its impact in the world already?
Yeah. Well, there's many things. I'd like to talk to something that you spoke to already. So one of the things I'm most proud of is that I really went there because I believe that people are powerful. And I don't buy into this thing of like, oh, we're all so fragile and we can only handle so much and our nervous systems are blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you can fucking do this. You can heal yourself. You can reclaim your power. You can transform your entire life rapidly. You can do it in a year. Yes, this kind of work takes years and decades to get to full mastery, but you are that powerful. And so in going there, I took certain things that I understood and created methodologies and practices for people to go to places that I'd never seen them have access to. So you referenced sexual innocence, right? And a practice where you go back to being a baby. And the reason that I developed this practice is that our nervous systems are like nesting dolls. And we have phases of development. And one phase of development gives rise to the next phase of development. And if you have disruption in the foundational phase of development, it will impact every other piece of development. So this is in one of the modules, and you go through your sexual phases of development. So imprinting around pleasure starts as an infant, right? And this isn't, please don't misunderstand, this is not sexualizing children. I would never do that as a sexual abuse survivor. What it is acknowledging that children are erotic beings and that they have an erotic innocence to them. And that if we honor that, we are the ones who are responsible as adults for creating safety in that. Instead, if we're like, no, children aren't erotic beings, they're only angels, right? And then it's like, oh, that child was erotic, there's something wrong. It's like, no, they are designed to be erotic. So babies will masturbate in utero. Babies will touch their genitals when they're breastfeeding, right? Infants are designed to start developing their pleasure capacity, their neural network of pleasure. And babies will pick up signals from their parents. So if parents look at a toy with disgust, infants will stop playing with it. They're that sensitive to the messaging of the adults around them. So some of our earliest imprints about whether pleasure is safe or not, whether pleasure is celebrated or not, actually happen in infancy. So let's say you had a safe imprint that pleasure is healthy and safe as an infant, and you deserve to feel as good as possible, right? Then you go on to being a little child where you get experimental and exploratory, and you get the message that you're safe, but you also get healthy boundaries, right? This is where we masturbate. This is where we don't masturbate.
Yeah, I have a 6-year-old son, and I'm like, you can be naked as much as you want. You just have to ask everyone in the room if they're okay with you being naked.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so many parents are like, how do I give my children sexual boundaries? And I'm like, the same way you teach them to pee on a toilet, but not...
Yeah, peeing's not bad. You just can't do it in the restaurant.
Yeah, you don't do it in the car, And like, it's not like shame that you have to pee. It's like, no, we do it in certain places to be safe and appropriate. So let's say you're an inner child and you get that, like, it's safe and appropriate to feel my own eros, to explore my own body in these ways, right? Then when you become a teenager and someone teaches you about sex and pleasure in your body and all these things, right? You get to explore in healthy, integrated, loving ways with boundaries, with honor, with respect for yourself and others. Then you become an adult, and then you get to be like naughty and wild, explore all your different edges. And from there, it's like, where do I go from here? Well, into sacred sexuality, right? Then I start using my eros for these altered states of consciousness, for the highest exploration. This is healthy evolution. Most everyone that I've ever met got broken somewhere, if not in many stages of that evolution. So as a baby, your parents are like, oh, don't touch your genitals, oh my God, right? Or like moving your hand away, or they're so repressed around their pleasure. Or, even for me as a baby, right? You talked about your experiences. My mom, she was being cheated on, and she was suddenly going through a divorce as a single mom in the 1980s. And so I got passed around to a bunch of people to take care of me as an infant while my mom was gone working all day because she had to. So I have these imprints inside of me of, I'm not safe. My needs aren't going to be met, right? When I talk publicly about having an anxious attachment style, it foundationally came from that, of being separated from my mother, of, yes, experiencing abuse, but more than anything else, not feeling like I could rely on my mother's presence or a caregiver's presence. So I became very anxious and attached to love. And then obviously experiencing abuse as a young child, and then getting to be a teenager and having all these distorted experiences with other teenagers who were having all their distorted experiences, not understanding anything about boundaries, about respecting myself, anything like that, which then brought me into adulthood. And now I've got all this terror from when I was young, all this shame from my abuse, all these shitty experiences from being a teenager. And then I'm trying to have great sex, and it's like, oh, why can't I be multi-orgasmic? Like, why can't I have a full body orgasm? Like, why am I like clinging on to like men who are trying to ghost me, you know? And so,
and then it's like more shame, right? It's like,
yes.
oh, I should be this sexual goddess. I should be multi-orgasmic, but there's something wrong with me.
Yes.
Versus like, oh, this trauma is an opportunity to heal and reclaim that energy that can fuel this spirituality.
Yes. And one of the great gifts of Ken Wilber's theories were you heal something at the level of consciousness that it occurred. This is Sex Magic, and it's designed to basically make your body feel more glittery, more turned on. It's got all kinds of amazing herbs in it. It's sweetened with monk fruit. It's colored with beetroot. It's got this beautiful combination of saffron in it and shilajit and all kinds of activating things, dopaminergics that make your body feel more pleasure. It's really powerful. Oh, and Hooperzine A, which is a nootropic moss. That was like the thing we were the most proud of. We were like, we put so many herbs in it and it actually tastes good. Feel deeper arousal and heightened sensitivity in as little as 30 minutes. Try it now at shopmood.com. So part of VITA coaching, and this is just one small part of it, is inviting people to go back to that consciousness, to go back to infant consciousness, to go back to inner child consciousness, to go back to teenager consciousness, and to make right what was wronged, to integrate and heal. And this is the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand about healing. Yes, it's about, let's say, going back to being an infant and feeling the terror or the pain or the loneliness. But if you can go back and reach that part of you, and that part of you experiences love and safety and the goodness of pleasure like it never knew, and that becomes your new nervous system foundation, then who cares what happened in your childhood anymore? And that sense of who cares, right? If I love myself and my inner child now knows peace and safety and pleasure and celebration and fun, and that's the new imprint in my nervous system because I went back and felt the pain and the trauma and the parts that got disconnected and brought them home, then who cares what the fuck my dad did, right? This is real healing, and we can get there.
Not even who cares, but thank God.
Yeah.
And I know that that might be a stretch for someone who's like actively in the pain of their abuse or in the pain of their trauma.
Yeah.
But I really do. I mean, I've seen it happen to you. I've seen it happen in myself, that if you get to a place where you really love yourself, and even more importantly, you love that inner child, and you have the tools and capacity to love that inner child, it's not just like, who cares what my dad did, but thank God my dad was an abusive alcoholic, right? Where it's like, because it has given me, yes, pain, but also resilience. Yes, trauma, but also superpowers. And so it's like, if you love who you are, that shaped you into it. And certainly I have a history of bypassing, but.
And let's also note for everyone listening that your dad was an abusive alcoholic. So you are speaking from your own realized truth right now.
Right. Yeah. And because, and I don't regret, I don't wish that it were different. Because I know that I would not be the human that I am right now or have the life that I have right now had I not created those specific wounds, those specific superpowers, those specific calluses. And like the freedom and liberation that comes from knowing that, like, no matter what new trauma you uncover, you are equipped with a level of self-acceptance and self-love to take that as, like, I see it like a video game. Like, in Super Mario Brothers, yes, I'm 46, so like in the 80s, I played Super Mario Brothers. But there would be like a mushroom, you'd be like,
I love me some Rainbow Road and Mario Kart.
But you find a little mushroom and then you like jump on top of it, and it's like you would consume the mushroom, and then Super Mario would grow bigger. Yeah. And I feel like now when I discover trauma, I like consume it, I integrate it, and it gives me superpowers. It makes me bigger and stronger versus taking me down.
Yeah. Well, the kind of undercurrents of that are that when you are coming from a place of self-love and integration, it's not in the mind. The mind can find a problem with anything, but your beingness can see and feel beauty in every human experience. So I wouldn't say it's like, thank God I was sexually abused versus like having a healthy dad. I would say I can see the beauty in every experience, and who am I to say why it should have been different? Like, all I know is that was my life path, and I made beauty of it. One of the cool things in the tantric tradition is that all of your pain and all of your trauma is raw fuel. So when you're talking about shadow work, right? One of the reasons that our shadows and our trauma become so damaging is that our life force energy is what gives us the capacity to orgasm the way we want to orgasm, to love how we want to love. Like if you're watching this and looking at me and Emily, we are glowing because we have liberated our life force energy, right? And to me now, getting older is like, it just gets better and better.
I mean, our lives are objectively getting better and better.
Access to all of my life force energy. But what happens is it takes a tremendous amount of life force energy to wrap a story, meaning I'm so angry at my dad, or I have all this unfelt pain and all these uncried tears, and I don't want to go there psychologically. So I'm also going to invest a huge amount of life force energy in avoiding situations that make me feel that. Or I'm going to be really addicted to situations that distract me from that. So they might look painful or low vibration or like I'm not getting what I want, but actually it's giving me what I want because at least I don't have to feel this ancient, horrible pain down here. We wrap so much of our life force energy into that we're subtly draining ourselves over a lifetime. So healing trauma isn't just like, oh, let me sit here and like look at my navel and like dig into my past or whatever because like I'm so privileged and I have free time and money. It's like, no, my life force energy is so valuable that I want to go liberate it from where it's gotten stuck and frozen and lost so that I can use that instead of having it tie me to my past and my habits and my pain. I want to mine that raw energy so that I can live as fully as possible in the now. So when you heal trauma in that way, your trauma actually, from a resource perspective, becomes an actual gift. Like it's almost like I had all this like natural gas reserve, but because I was letting it vibrate at the frequency of unfelt pain, it was just bringing me down. The moment that I train myself to be able to feel the pain with consciousness and love and presence, and then be able to alchemize it through pleasure and erotic practices into raw life force energy, then it becomes this huge gift. So you can literally mine your trauma to become more powerful and more alive.
Amen.
If you want the most outrageously orgasmic pussy, if you want to have the most exquisite and luscious sexual experiences of your entire life, the most effective tool for this is called the crystal egg. This is a crystal that you pop up your pussy and essentially you do a type of yoga with it, meaning you learn different breathwork practices, different strength building exercises, and different ways to use your sexual energy that enhance sensitivity, pleasure, and your sexual magnetism. This is my absolute favorite practice. It transformed my sexuality, and I'm so excited to share it with you. I teach it in a program called Crystal Pleasure. This is a 6-week-long training that gives you everything you need to know about this amazing tool so that you can have the most exquisite sexual experiences. You can sign up for this program by heading over to laylamartin.com/crystal pleasure.
Okay, so can you tell us, like, what's the deathbed slideshow, something you'd be so proud of, something you are so proud of like someone said something to you on the street or something that you've seen from one of your coaches, like either in their own lives or the way that they've coached?
So the most touching thing that our graduates say to me, and they say it very often, is I got my life back. I got my life back. I became the main character. I claimed my destiny. I owned my pleasure. I'm able to, it's like I came home to myself and my life is now an expression of me. So that's what I'm most proud of. I am so proud of our graduates that are out there making waves, making money. You, Bibi Broska,
Mel Wells.
Mel Wells, Mia Magic's out there, Whitney Ulam, Rachel Halder. Like these are just like a couple of our graduates. And there's so many that I can barely even like think of all of them. And so just so many graduates giving TED Talks, publishing books, like guiding their clients. And what happened, as you said, in the last 10 years is it went from, I don't want to be a witch or like, you know, sacred sexuality is this like weird taboo out there thing to just like, everybody wants to be a sex witch. Like everyone wants to be a high priestess, like to the point now where people are like, oh, another queen or whatever. And you're like, thank God that's our problem.
I know there's like memes about like too many high priestesses. And I'm like, great, let's go.
We would be blessed to encounter such a problem, right? It's just such a wild reclamation that's happening, and culture has fundamentally shifted. It really has. And we have so much farther to go for it to truly permeate culture, for high priestesses to be at the highest levels of power, both on their own and in their partnerships, on their impact and influence on the people that they're partnered with.
And like counseling the generals of armies, counseling the presidents, like being in positions of real power the way that it was for thousands and thousands of years.
Yes.
So I want to just talk about the program as we're bringing this to a close. So, I really spend, and I also think it's important to know that, there are lots of people in VITA who want to become sex, love, and relationship coaches, because it's a coaching certification. I'd say it's one of the best coaching certifications out there, just period, on how you learn to coach, but also the outrageous amount of work that happens on yourself, right? Because again, like, who wants to take health advice from someone who's not healthy? Like, the whole first trimester is all about your self-practice. And that's really where I spent a lot of my time and energy, was really on cultivating these practices for myself. But so first trimester is self-development, like you were saying, inner child, like all these different phases where you might have experienced trauma, all this reclamation, self-love, self-safety.
Developing your orgasm, relating to your shadow, being able to feel all of your emotions. There's even trainings on how to speak your truth. What is a real boundary? How to claim your erotic power so it's really a gift to you and you're not leaking it out. How to integrate parts of your identity so that you feel whole within yourself. How to create intimate sexual experiences from a place of sovereignty. How to fall in love with yourself. All the different tools that amplify pleasure inside of your nervous system. How to feel like you're safe and you belong and you are loved even when you are powerful and orgasmic and out there speaking your truth. Just a couple of the things that you learn.
Things like that. And energy orgasm, multi-orgasmic. Sex magic, using sexual energy to manifest. And so I really just want people to know that even if you never wanted to take a coaching client, even if you did not want to professionally become a sex, love, and relationship coach, the amount of value that you can get just from the first trimester alone is really exquisite and one of the best personal development programs I've ever experienced. But then in trimester 2, you take people into like becoming an extraordinary coach.
Yeah.
Right. And like based on your many, many years of coaching and helping people through that. And then the third trimester, which I think is really unique, is all about like business boot camp, like business mastery and becoming a profitable coach. And I you don't talk about this too much, but I want to brag on you as an entrepreneur. I want to brag on you as a business owner. You're running not just one successful multi-7-figure business, but two, right? You've developed Mood and VITA on your own. You've never taken investors. You don't have some like board. You don't have like a rich husband funding this. Like, you've built this from nothing, from like the jungles of Tantra, like living out of a suitcase, into this beautiful like national empire. And I'm so proud of you as an entrepreneur and as a CEO. And I just don't think many people understand, like when I have business questions, I come to you. I love that we can mastermind in that way and help each other in this particular lane of genius. But you've put all of that into this course as well. And so it really is like best of the best personal development, best of the best coaching training, and best of the best business coaching, all inside of this one curriculum. And I honestly think you're undercharging. And so if people want to get started, if people want to like dive into VITA, where do they start? Where do they go?
Well, we're going to be doing an amazing live event this year that will take you through a lot of these practices and some of the introduction to the training and the approach and the coaching, so you can really get a taste of it yourself, practice it in your own body, see some of the coaching methodology live, because you are correct. It was very important to me that people do a level of the self-work that they feel that they can do what I call transmit the wisdom, which means I'm not just parroting what Layla told me. I experienced it myself. I did the work to taste the multi-orgasmic state, to understand the power of sex magic, to see how much more intimate I could become, to see what it takes to form a healthy relationship, to either get healthier in the one I'm in or to magnetize one. And you don't have to be in a relationship to do this kind of coaching, but obviously it's going to be a focus for you. And so that's what the first trimester is all about, is I'm legit because I have done the tools and the work to understand what it is that I'm talking about. And you don't have to be perfect, right? Like I've gone through separations, I've been partnered, I've been single, I've gone through cycles of trauma. Sometimes I'm like living my best life. Sometimes I'm like in the fetal position being like, who should ever listen to me? So don't tell yourself that you need to be perfect in order to do this, but you do need to have been trained in a challenging way for people to respect and trust you. And that's why that first trimester training is very intensive. And then it's very important to me that our coaches are the best in class. So it's like, yes, we're sex, love, and relationships, but I don't care about that. I care that you are the best coach, period, in whatever field you're in. And what I always say to people is, I didn't build this program for you. I built it for every client and student you will ever work with. And so our trimester 2 is an extensive training, not only in the methodology and how to guide clients through these practices, but in all of the qualities that make you an excellent coach. How do you exhibit confidence? How do you use body language? How do you be curious? What is presence? What communicates safety to a client? All of that gets covered, and not only covered, but you get tested and trained and reflected on it in trimester 2, in addition to a very specific methodology and framework that allows you to know exactly what you're doing in all kinds of sessions. So you can coach a client on how to feel more worthy, on how to come into their power, on how to be more orgasmic, on how to resolve conflict in their relationship, like everything that you would need to know to feel very confident as a sex, love, and relationship coach. And from there,
and I'll just
the business
to
training.
Speak to that is that I have 2 of your graduates, shout out to Phoebe and Rosa, who have helped me facilitate on all of my retreats. And I've seen the magic and miracles that they have worked. Someone will be super triggered, super spun out because I hit the gas, like I like to go hard. And then they will take someone in a real rupture and then somehow magically alchemize it into like, oh my God, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. And I know that they're implementing the stuff that they've learned inside of VITA.
Yes. And then, as you said, they go into the business boot camp, which is everything you would need to know to launch a successful business. And not just everything you need to know, but literally making you do the work. So if you do the whole business boot camp, you will have launched your website. You will know exactly how to create your podcast or your Instagram, how to create sales emails, how to launch an online program, how to communicate about what you do as a coach in a simple and effective way, how to use AI now to be able to amplify your productivity and your abilities inside of your business. It covers all of it. And so you understand branding and communication and even how to be productive, how to schedule things so that you actually make this real. Because I know that you can be the most skilled coach in the world, but if you don't know how to sell yourself or promote yourself or make content to get yourself out there, you're not going to make money. So I consider it my responsibility and our program's responsibility to give you the skills and training in order to be financially successful. We train you extensively in how to do sales calls, how to enroll clients in high-end and premium-priced coaching packages, how to feel comfortable talking about money, how to up-level your wealth consciousness so that you feel good. If you're like, oh, I could never charge $10K for a coaching program, we'll actually put you through training to work through that discomfort so that you feel confident doing that. And then finally, we have the majors. So on top of all of that, it's like then you can specialize. So the majors are usually about 6-week trainings where you can then specialize in men's sexuality, in female sexuality, in the jade or crystal egg, in conscious dating, in relationship transformation, in tantric sexuality. So it's basically like, okay, I'm now a sex, love, and relationship coach, but I want to specialize in working with men, or I want to specialize in the jade or crystal egg, or I want to specialize in people who are dating and looking for their soulmate, or I want to specialize in working with couples, or I want to specialize in tantra. Then you get the majors, and that allows you to specialize because people always pay and trust specialists more than generalists.
So exciting. And so if people want to experience this free event or just go ahead and enroll, because I can't imagine that they've listened to this podcast and don't want to sign up immediately, like where do people go like on the interwebs?
So you can always go to laylamartin.com/VITA Coaching, VITA. We'll also include the links down below where you can find access to the live event. You can also either apply if the program is open, or you can get on the wait list depending on where we are in the cycle of the program right now. Getting on my email list at laylamartin.com will always keep you connected to this program.
Just do that immediately. Your emails are so good. They're like hilarious, deep, captivating, awe-inspiring. They're so good. Your emails are amazing.
Oh, I love you so much, Emily. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And for those you are listening right now, if you are feeling the call, if you're like VITA Coaching, fuck yes, go and check out those links down below. Get yourself signed up and connected so you can make the best decision for you. And I hope to be able to work with you if you are a yes very soon.
I love you so much. Thank you for making this program. It's made my life so much better. And for those of you listening, I really, like, from the bottom of my heart, if there's any piece of you that's like, I'm curious if this is for me, like, could this improve my life? Like, the answer is yes. Like, there's no world in which you won't benefit from a level of self-love, safety, reclamation, and erotic holiness. And Layla is truly one of the most extraordinary teachers I've ever experienced. So I'm so excited for your journey. And thank you for joining us, where I was the guest host and I got to turn the tables on this tantric life.
Thank you for listening to This Tantric Life. I am Layla Martin. This is the home for the realest conversations about sex, spirituality, polarity, conscious relationships, and all kinds of topics that help us live the absolute most incredible lives. Please check out the next episode. Please go ahead and leave your rating and review on Spotify or Apple or YouTube. It's so helpful when you do that. If you want to stay connected to me, the most helpful supportive thing you can do is to head over to laylamartin.com, sign up with your email address. That connects you to me if you want to study deeper with me, if you want to receive my deeper teachings. I do it predominantly via email. Finally, you can check me out on Instagram at @the Layla Martin. And thank you so much for being here.